Everybody, we are live. We are broadcasting now, I think, and waiting for you all to come in. I can see the numbers. It's so great when we press broadcasting, I can just see the numbers racing up as you all join. But I know it just takes a few seconds for everybody to join. So I'll just run through the housekeeping while everybody's coming in. Webinar, the same as usual. If you want to ask questions, you're very welcome. You just the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. You can type in anything you want to ask us there. And Ellie behind the scenes is pulling all those questions together, and then she'll send them to me and I'll be able to ask them of our guests. We probably won't get through all your questions, but we'll do our very best to get through as many as we can. And there are going to be some fun polls and exciting things to vote on to find out some very special secrets about these amazing people that you won't be able to find anywhere else. So I think the numbers have stopped, they're rising a little bit still, but I think we can probably get on with the introductions. So let me screen share and we're going to kick things off with a few pictures. So the title of our session today is How to Be the Best You Can Be. And it's all about giving yourself the very best chance to be the best musician that you can be in whatever situation that you're in. And what we've devised amongst the four of us is 8 top tips to be the best that you can be. And we're going to run through all those 8 ideas and summarize them at the end. And so you can take them away as a little musical and psychological toolkit to check that you are giving yourself the absolute best chance to be the best that you can be. So we are joined by the amazing Claire Bennett, Tom Taffinder and Anne Denholm. And I'm just going to ask them to all introduce themselves and tell us who they are. So Anne, do you want to Claire, do you want to kick off for us?
Yes, hi everybody, I'm Claire. Nice to see you all again. I'm a former international fencer for Great Britain, and my proudest moment was captaining the England team to a gold medal at the Commonwealth Games in 2010. I'm now a qualified performance coach as well, so I support and develop others to achieve their potential. And I also do, that's me on the left as a young girl. I was 14 years old when I went to my first World Championships, and I now do a lot of commentary on Eurosport for fencing and a lot of coaching with young people as well. I've also worked with other orchestras. I worked with the BBC Symphony Orchestra and choirs, as well as South Bank Sinfonia, and most recently the Welsh National Opera Orchestra. It's a bit of a mouthful, but I've worked a lot with musicians to help them around various topics like positive self-talk, mental preparation, like we're going to talk about today, and growth mindset.
Fantastic. Thank you, Claire. Now let's move over to Anne.
Hi everyone, my name's Anne. I'm a harpist, and this is me in NCO wearing my favourite red skirt, and here with the wonderful harp tutor that we had at the time, Jenny Jones, also sporting another brilliant fashion choice there. My favourite t-shirt. And now I'm really lucky to enjoy being a freelance harpist. And so one of the things I do is, as you can see here, I play in a very unusual quartet called the Hermes Experiment. And we play lots of new music, and we commission composers to write us new pieces. And we also improvise a lot, which is what we're doing in that photo there. I also am really lucky to get to play with orchestras, which I absolutely love doing. So this is me here leading the harp section with CBSO a few years ago. And I was also lucky to be the official harpist to His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales between 2015 and 19. And this is a picture of the beautiful royal harp. And one of the most exciting moments was getting to play at the royal wedding of Harry and Meghan in 2018. So that's a brief summary.
Wow, thank you, Anne. And what we should say also is that Anne is one of our harp tutors on
Yes.
NC Online. So she's working with all our little harpists as well on the course. So I'm sure there'll be many of them listening in to you today. So Tom, tell us about you.
Hello everyone, it's great to be back again, and I hope you're all doing well. My name is Tom, and I'm not a professional footballer. I'm actually a French horn player and teacher, but I also run the Healthy Performance Programme at the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama in Cardiff, and I've been doing that for the last 7 years. This is me recording a Dark Materials soundtrack with the BBC National Orchestra of Wales, similar to you guys recording Mambo with your click tracks. I've been NCO as well, being lead for just over a year now, so I have met some of you in person, which is a bit of a novelty these days. This is me with my wife, and my wife is a viola player, not Darth Vader. and we were doing Star Wars: A New Hope live in concert, an arena tour, which was really exciting last year, going around the country. So those of you I've already worked with will know that alongside the physical side of performance, I also talk a lot about the mental side too, with particular focus on mental techniques that we can use to calm anxiety and enhance performance, one of which is on NCO Online in the wellbeing section, body scanning, which we'll talk about a bit later.
Great, thank you so much, all of you. So the 8 top tips to be the best you can be. These are musical preparation. We're going to talk about all of these in a minute. Goal setting, mental preparation, being in flow, checking your perfectionism, coping with mistakes, practicing performing, and who is your support team, making sure you have a great support team. So we're going to kick things off now as I get out of the screen share with Anne. Tell us a little bit about the first topic, musical preparation. That's the first sort of step, isn't it, to feeling confident in performance?
Absolutely. So feeling confident in performance starts when you start learning your own part. So we're talking today, obviously, about an orchestral context. And so we're going to be talking about learning orchestral parts. So just like if you were learning a solo piece for an exam, or maybe for a competition or a performance, you have to know your orchestral part inside out. You have to know it really well. It's easy sometimes to feel like you can maybe hide a bit more in an orchestra because there's lots of people playing. But actually, in an orchestra, it comes with even more responsibilities and exciting musical opportunities. So you have to know your part really well. That's number one. So practice it thoroughly. And once you really know your part, that's when the magic happens, because that means when you're in the orchestra, you can get out of the part because you know it so well, and you can start really interacting with all these wonderful people around you. So to prepare for that, what I do is I find a score if I can. So these days you can find loads of free scores online, or sometimes you can request to see them from libraries. And then I also find a recording. And if you can't find a score, the recording is the next best thing. Really listen to what's going on. Count your bars rest. See if you can put cues in. Annotate your parts. I almost spend as much time preparing in that way as I do actually practicing the notes before I get in the orchestra. And it really, really, really pays off. So
sorry to interrupt you. We've just had a poll launched, which you've given us a bit of a clue to the answer. But the question is, I asked our guests, do they like to plan things in advance or do they prefer to be spontaneous? And they all answered in the same way. So which did they answer? Did they like to plan it or did they like to wing it? Let's see. So you keep voting on that and we'll come back to the results in a minute. Do you want to carry on, Anne?
Yes, brilliant. So once you've listened to everything, you've annotated your part, have a go at actually practicing being in the orchestra. What do I mean by that? I don't mean invite everyone around to your house. I mean, get the recording on, put it in your ears or on a massive speaker and try playing along, and it'll show you the bits that you maybe need to practice a bit more or listen to a bit more. And that's actually much harder doing it without being able to see everyone. So if you can do that, you'll be absolutely fabulous in the orchestra. And so I think one of the next things that's really important to say about preparing, and it links into our next topic, is you really need to be organised about how you prepare your part and how you prepare for an NCO or other orchestral course. So you need to be able to set goals for yourself. And I think that's our next topic, isn't it, Kath?
Yeah. So let's have a quick look at the results of the poll. So 82% think you are planning type people and 18% think you are winging type people. So Claire, do you want to give us the answer on that one?
It's definitely planners. I think I'm pretty sure we like to prepare before we do things. So yeah, that's our style.
But in a way, you can't really wing it unless you plan things, can you? I mean, you can't. You don't. It's an irony, isn't it, that you don't have the freedom to be flexible unless you have done some of the groundwork. So you probably do both in your lives, don't you? You probably plan it and wing it, but definitely planning is a huge part of mental preparation and any preparation, obviously. Great. So our next topic. So that's the first one, which was musical preparation. So the next one is goal setting and evaluation. So what are you trying to achieve with your playing, with your concert, with your performance, with your audition? And how will you know if you've achieved it or not? And do you want to just carry on with that a little?
So the way that I go about setting goals is that I've got a magic notebook, and that's my goal notebook. And when I start learning a piece, whether it's for orchestra or solo or anything else, I write a list of milestones that I want to achieve. So my first one is always, can I play the notes in the right order? My second one is, can I play the notes in the right order with a metronome at the right speed, at the correct eventual speed? Now that takes a long time to get to normally. And then for orchestra stuff, my next one is, can I play, have I looked at the score or listened to the track? And then finally, have I played it with the track? And so I'm really systematic. So that's what we were talking about just before the poll. Be really organised. Wonderful things can be organised. So set goals for yourself, tick them off, be really systematic. It's also really satisfying because instead of just investing lots of time and feeling like hopefully you're getting somewhere, you know you're getting somewhere because you can tick things off and you can track your progress. So be organised about your practice.
Oh, another poll about Anne. Can you see that one there?
Yeah.
Anne's favourite childhood film was either Pocahontas, Lion King, The Little Mermaid, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, or Cinderella. And we had a big Disney quiz yesterday. So these guys are well up on all their Disney things. So we're going to find out the secret about what her favourite film was. Claire, do you want to tell me a little bit about how athletes go about setting goals?
Definitely. I mean, goal setting in athletes is so important, and we like to do SMART goals. So that's an acronym for them to be specific, measurable, achievable or attainable, realistic, and time bound. Okay. So I always say that remember that a goal is without a plan is just a wish or a desire. So I always try and say it out loud or write down my goal, and for me, it just becomes that much more achievable and believable if I say it, if I tell someone about it or write it down. And just like Anne, actually, I see it the same way. It's all about setting those short stepping stone goals that are going to lead you to that final big end outcome goal. And I did that actually when in fact, I got the double gold at the Commonwealth Games. And the morning that I did that, I wrote down a list of about 5 or 6 goals, really small goals, things like focus on your breathing, focus on your footwork, be in the moment, things like that. And I folded a piece of paper up and I put it in my back pocket. And I looked at those goals throughout the day. And that's why we won the gold medal, because I didn't think about the end goal, which was winning that gold medal. I thought about those stepping stone goals. And I knew that if I achieved those, my performance would follow. So for me, it's the same as Anne, stepping stone, small goals are really, really important. And also important to then set that end goal. Look for the long term, but don't focus on that. Focus on those small goals to get there. So yeah, that's a bit about how athletes set goals.
Could you tell us what the SMART is again?
Yeah, so specific, measurable. Okay, so you need to be able to measure it.
I can see Tom's taking notes here.
Yeah.
He's writing these down. Specific,
Achievable,
measurable,
achievable or attainable, realistic. Okay, so you don't want to set a goal that's too far out of your reach, and time bound. And by time bound, that means, so if you say I'm going to do a set practice, or I'm going to practice on my breathing technique. Okay, so then you'd say, okay, when are you going to practice on your breathing technique? What day are you going to practice? And then that way you can then tell your parents and they can make you accountable for it as well. So
fantastic. Right, let's end our poll and see what the answer is. Okay, most people think your favourite film, Anne, was The Little Mermaid.
Oh no!
With 22% thinking Snow White, 19 Pocahontas, 16% The Lion King, and 13% Cinderella. So let's have a drum roll. What's the answer, Anne?
It's Pocahontas!
Why did you love Pocahontas?
I don't know why. I absolutely loved it. And I saved up my pocket money absolutely religiously to buy the second one. And I still remember buying it and just being so excited. And you know what? I've never seen Snow White. So you guys were way off.
Apparently there was a question in the quiz yesterday that which Disney princess wears no shoes for the entire film. And it is Pocahontas. So you would have known that, I'm sure, if you'd been in the quiz. You can actually go back and do the quiz if you want.
Oh, I might well do that then. Thank you.
Yeah. Some people got 4 marks, so there's some competition.
Pressure's high.
Yeah, great. So we've done musical preparation and we've done goal setting. So let's go to our third topic, which is mental preparation. And can you kick this off for us, Tom?
Yeah, sure. So mental preparation harnesses the most powerful tool we have, which is our brains. And I like to think that there are two different types of mental preparation. There's short-term preparation, which includes techniques that relax and focus us just before we go on stage, and long-term preparation, which includes techniques that rehearse positive performances using imagery and visualization in the build-up to a performance. Now, those two do overlap quite a bit because they both deal with the 3 R's of mental preparation, which for me are relax, rehearse, and reinforce. So short-term mental techniques such as body scanning, triggers, and certain deep breathing exercises are particularly important because when we perform, we often put ourselves under increased pressure to play well. And our minds can view this increased pressure as a threat, which can trigger a response you may have heard of before called fight, flight, or freeze. It's also called fight or flight, but I quite like the freeze bit as well, which is what gives us this feeling of being nervous, which is a horrible feeling, isn't it? So fight, flight, or freeze is one of the most natural human responses there are, and we've all had it before. It happens when something makes us feel threatened, like a saber-toothed tiger chasing after us, or a maths exam, or worse, sight reading. And so our bodies release adrenaline to help us fight, run away, or my personal favourite, hide. So adrenaline raises our heart rate, raises our blood pressure, makes us sweat, makes us shake a bit, can alter our breathing. It also gives us butterflies in our stomach because the adrenaline pushes the blood to our muscles, ready for the fight, and away from things like our digestive system, which is not needed when you're fighting a tiger. So this response is great for fighting a tiger, or more to the point, probably running away, but it's less great if you're actually trying to play your instrument. And unfortunately, our bodies can't tell the difference between those two extremes. Now, it's important to point out here that a bit of adrenaline can enhance performance, and actually does enhance performance if you channel it in the right way. We might get to talk about that a little bit later on. But too much of it, if you're anything like me, can be detrimental. Which is why having quick mental techniques to lower the anxiety will be really, really helpful. Having said which, I'm going to shamelessly plug my body scanning video, which is on NCO Online in the wellbeing section. Now, body scanning is a relaxation technique that everyone can do. All you need to do is tense and relax certain groups of muscles to give you this overwhelming feeling of relaxation. So it works on the principle that if we have a relaxed body, our mind will follow suit, and it's very effective. So do try it out and let me know how you get on. As a little aside here, I'm going to also tell you the one piece of advice that I wish someone had told me when I was your age, which is that exercise is the one and only thing that burns off adrenaline. Okay, so if you struggle with nerves a bit as a performer, try going for a run or doing some exercise a couple of hours before the performance. And you might find that this will reduce the symptoms of adrenaline when you play. And I love this fact because it just shows how completely interlinked the mental and physical sides of your body are. And I remember the first time I tried it with a performance class at music college. I went for a run before and I got on stage, and all of those things that had held me back, like a bit of shaking, a bit of sweating, heart racing, weren't there. And it was like the whole pressure of that situation was completely lifted for me. And then I could get on enjoying the performance. And then when you start enjoying it, there's less adrenaline going through and you're more focused on what you're actually doing. Anyway, going back to mental preparation, my favorite long-term mental technique is visualization. Now, there's been loads of research into visualization and imagery, and they've found that when we visualize an action, we stimulate the same parts of our brain, the same regions of our brain, and we send the same impulses from our brain to our muscles as we would do if we were actually doing that action. So it's kind of scientifically proven to work. So I personally, just before I go to bed, if I'm performing a piece, I will listen through to my favourite recording, imagine myself playing it in a concert hall in front of an audience, and it going really well. So I'm reinforcing the positivity. And then I find that if you do that before you go to bed, sorry, lost my place. Doing this just before going to bed means that our subconscious processes this as a memory. when we sleep. So it kind of seeps in overnight, which I think is an amazing fact. So try doing it before you go to bed. Also, it's great for stuff like revision. If you do it just before you go to bed, it seeps into our brains a bit more. Anyway, Claire's going to talk more about visualization.
Yeah, same as you, Tom. I used to do visualization just before going to bed for about 10 minutes or so. And even when I woke up in the morning, if, you know, rather than sort of just like waking up and chilling out and hitting the snooze button, I would really try and think about, you know, me landing that beautiful hit in the finals of the Olympic Games, or, you know, having those really positive, strong experiences that I can then reflect on and bring to life when I'm actually performing. And it's just amazing how powerful the mind is, you know, with visualization. If for example, like I do this quite a lot when I go to a restaurant, and if, you know, pudding's coming or there's an ice cream sundae on its way, you can see it coming, the waiter's bringing it, you always get a bit of saliva coming. You can actually visualize it and feel it coming. And that's how powerful the brain is, you know. So I definitely, visualization is such a powerful tool, as is a thing called mindfulness. So mindfulness is something that I use a lot in fencing, and that helped me because I had a lot of overcrowding in my head sometimes before I went into competition. I might have some negative thoughts and feelings, or some worries, concerns, you know, stuff like, am I good enough? Can I do this? You know? And the mindfulness, what I did was I just decluttered all those thoughts and feelings. And for whatever reason, it was always a Sainsbury's bag, an orange bag, that I would take all my thoughts and put it into this bag. I'd tie a knot and I'd throw it away. So that when I stepped onto that fencing piece, which is what we fence on, I just felt like I could be in the moment. I was free, and I could have that single pointed focus so that I could perform to my best potential. So yeah, it's about kind of ensuring that you walk onto that stage before you perform without any conflicting thoughts or feelings that are going to hold you back. So that's a bit about mindfulness. And the other thing I wanted to talk about really quickly was about positive self-talk. You know, how many times have we always said, oh, am I good enough? Or can I really do this? You know, flip that round and just say, I'm going to perform brilliantly today with passion, with clear direction, rather than I hope to play well, you know. I can't remember if I said this last time, but a really good tip that I used to do, I used to carry an elastic band around my wrist. So every time I had a negative thought come up in my head, I would just flick that, and it would make me aware that I was thinking negatively, and that I would have to reframe that and flip that into a positive sentence. And by the end of the day, I'd have quite a sore wrist. But after practice, it became a habit, you know, to think positively, and I didn't have that sore wrist. And in fact, I don't wear that elastic band very often anymore. But you have about 30,000 to 70,000 thoughts in your head a day. So you want to make sure that it's the coach who's going to support you and lift you up and bring out the best in you, rather than that critic, you know, who's going to bring you down. So be really careful. You know, we talk about healthy eating and everything else. You also have to make sure the thoughts that go in your head are healthy as well and positive.
Fantastic, Claire. Thank you. Oh, we've got another poll. So the poll says, one of our guests would like to have the superpower of teleportation. Who is it? So let's have a guess about that. And we've just had a question in, actually, which is probably good for you, Anne. Is there a point when you can prepare too much for a performance? How do you know when you're pressurizing yourself too much?
Well, we are actually going to really answer that question very, very soon, in not the next section, the next one after that, because we're going to talk about perfectionism. So shall I leave it for that moment? Because I'm
okay, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's leave it till then. Excellent. Let's leave it till then. So the poll is going up. People are still voting. So the next topic we're going to talk about is being in flow, or being in the moment, which is about actually being really present and not thinking about where you were before or where you're going, and just actually being happy to be where you are. Tom, could you tell us a little bit about being in flow?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting to hear Claire talk about sort of negative self-talk, and I get that negative self-talk too. And I've actually, in fact, sometimes it sort of sounds like a press conference up there. There's so much talking going on. And I've actually named my negative voice, Bob. All right. So I'm named him Bob, and if Bob starts talking too much, what I say is, I'm playing the concert now, I'll talk to you at the end, rather than addressing it as I'm trying to play and be in the flow of the situation. Now, if you're interested about that, lots has been written about it. In fact, this is really good, Performance Success by Dr. Dr. Green. It's very, very good. And Professor Steve has written this chimp paradox for us as well. So going back to being in flow and being in the moment, I try and absolutely focus on the fundamentals of playing my instrument, right? So for us brass players, the fundamentals, I believe, are song and wind. So song is what you want to sound like in your head. So concentrating on this rather than really necessarily what you might be sounding like is a good thing, because it's sort of positive reinforcement. And wind, both in and out the free movement of air. And that's from the great Arnold Jacobs, who came up with that. So I mean, I have to be honest, the best moment I've ever had of feeling like I've been playing in the moment and playing in flow was the night before my end of year recital at music college. I played a concert with the BBC National Orchestra of Wales in St David's Hall, playing Mahler's Second Symphony, massive symphony. And I think I was so focused on my recital the day after that I just sort of let it happen in the concert the night before. And I mean, that's what we're after, isn't it? It's not paralysis by analysis. It's not overthinking things. And the more you can enjoy your playing as well, the more likely that is to happen, I find anyway.
Great, thank you, Tom. So we have the results of our poll. Here we are. It says that 60% think that Tom wants to be able to teleport, 25% Claire, and only 15% Anne. So let's see what's, drum roll, own up to who would like to be able to teleport.
Hey, I think it'd be so cool to be able to just click your fingers and say, right, I'm going to be at practice, or I'm going to be at school, or wherever. Just such a cool, so that would definitely be my superpower.
Brilliant, thank you, Claire. So, and just following on from Tom on flow,
yeah,
tell us a little bit about being really conscientious and working really hard, and how that helps or doesn't help sometimes.
Yeah, so the word overthinking has already cropped up today. And that's something that I've personally really had to deal with in terms of being successful in performance. That's something I've had to overcome. I've had concerts where I've sat down playing a piece by memory, which I've clearly been practicing a lot. And I've said, oh, but do I really know what the first chord is? And then suddenly you don't know what the first chord is and you have no idea what you're doing. And it's absolutely terrifying. However, the good news is it doesn't have to be like that. And I've had that in orchestral context as well. So I think one of the orchestral gigs I prepared most for ever, because it was really, really important, is one of the ones where I actually scuppered things by overthinking, because I was so busy thinking, have I got this right? Actually missed the entry. So you need to take it seriously, because it can get in the way. But the good thing is that I've got two things. I was trying to think, how have I dealt with this? And the first thing is, and we've already talked about this today, mental practice. So practice knowing, and so visualization comes into this as well, practice being in that situation. So what I do is I sit without the harp, and not only do I don't do this for every orchestral gig, but if I know I'm going to be stressed and it's a big deal, I picture the part and I make sure I actually know every note of the harp part. Now, for you guys that play more notes than harpists, that might not be feasible. So I picture the harp part. Do I know all the notes? Do I know who else is playing? And I picture myself counting the bars rest. I hear what might happen in the bars rest. And that is essentially practicing for that moment where you might doubt yourself or you might try and overthink. So I cannot agree more with what's been said about mental practice being so, so important. That's really, really helped me to overcome overthinking. And again, there's loads of fabulous resources online about mental practice. And then the second thing, and this is for in the moment, is I just had to learn to trust myself more. And so this also relates to the positive self-talk, and I think Claire's going to talk a little bit more about that later as well. Know that you can do it. Just be as calm and logical about it as you can. I've prepared this, I know I can do it, and it's going to be fine. And I think it sounds really simple, but actually really getting yourself into that zone of, I can do this and it's fine, that makes overthinking less likely to happen. That's what I found. So mental preparation and being really trusting of yourself in the moment.
Thank you, Anne. Did you want to share anything more about decluttering your thoughts, Claire, or was that your Sainsbury's bag, or are there other bags that you put your thoughts in?
Not so much decluttering my thoughts, but I guess what does help to kind of be in the moment as well. I use what's called an anchor technique. So it's where I put my thumb and my forefinger together. So I would be like fencing in a competition, and I'd suddenly do that, and that would take me back to a place like the Maldives or somewhere. I've never been there, but I imagine that beaches are beautiful and very peaceful and gorgeous. So when I do that, it takes me to a peaceful place, and I can just take a deep breath and reset, start again. One thing I did used to do whenever I put my fencing mask on, it was maybe a superstitious thing, but I used to tap my mask twice before I fence. But again, that does help me to go, as soon as I put that mask on, that's it. I'm an athlete. I'm someone who's going to fight my heart and to make sure that I win this fight. And I turn into, you know, the athlete that I want to be. So yeah, so they're just little things like that. The tapping my mask twice really helped just to get me engaged in the zone. And again, that anchor technique. So if I felt like was having a wobbly moment or I was losing the fight, I'd walk back to my on guard line where we start the fight, and I'd just do this as I was walking back, and it would help me bring me back into the present moment.
Thank you, Claire. Brilliant. So let's just have a quick screen share of what all you guys have been up to on NCO Online, because it's been a very busy time. So where are we? Here we are. This is what we've been up to. Does that look okay to you guys? You can see it all right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so what kids webinar selfies from our last webinar on Friday. That was a lot of fun, wasn't it? We had Bill Bailey and Tam with us, and a lot of silly fun going on there. So thank you for sending in these pictures. If you want, we're going to do one at the end of this, hopefully, in some sort of way, although I haven't warned our guests that we were going to do that, but we are. So think of a pose and we'll do it together. So it's great to see so many of you engaging with that. And with friends as well, look. So there we are, all doing our webinar selfies. And next up, after the selfies, is the masterclasses. You've all been having masterclasses these last few days, which is fantastic. So there's our low brass having a bit of a blast. They look like they're having fun there. This is our bassoons, and I know what was happening here. Fraser on the contrabassoon was playing Baby Shark to everybody. So of course that's why everybody's laughing and having a lot of fun. And the basses were doing a bit of a warm up, and then a massive thumbs up from all our senior horns. Great to see them having a lot of fun. And you've all been recording your Mambo. Thank you so much. The deadline has gone today, and I'm about to, right after this webinar, go and listen to them all, and I'm very excited to hear them. So thank you for doing that. Musical postcards have been coming in. This is a fabulous Harry Potter one. It's all, I think most of these are on the gallery now. If they're not, they will be very soon. So you can go and listen to all these wonderful musical postcards that people have been creating with a cappella. And of course, the Taskmaster challenges. There's Peter, our Taskmaster, who has set a new challenge this week for you all, which is to multitask. So to do something else whilst you are playing your instrument. So here we've got Leah colouring in while she's playing her oboe. We've got an amazing video of Claire there playing the piano with her toes and the horn with her mouth and hands.
As if it's not hard enough.
Yeah. And there's a sandwich being eaten, I think, and some drums being played at the same time there. So that's for what you've got to do this week. The Disney quiz yesterday, amazing. So many of you did so well. Well done, everybody. And lots of dressing up going on with the Disney quiz as well. I think we missed a trick, actually. We should have got you to come as Pocahontas, Anne, and then that might have given away your favourite movie. Lots of lovely colouring as well. Really, really nice attention to detail and beautiful colouring. And everything is in the gallery. So have a little look up at the gallery. If it's not quite there yet, it will be there very soon. Great. So that's the end of that. Now let's come back to our... Oh, we've got a poll now. Goodness me, it's flying by. Tom, this is a poll about Tom. Tom used to play football for... This is a true or false, okay? Tom used to play football for Plymouth Argyle Junior Academy and nearly became a professional footballer. Is that true or false? Tom is an excellent golfer and has played at Glen Eagles. Is that true or false? Or Tom was Cornwall County Junior Tennis Champion in 2006. Is that true or false? Only one of those things is true. Is that right, Tom?
Yeah, one of them. Just the
one of them is true and two of them are false. So get your thinking caps on. Okay, The next topic, we've done 4 now. The next topic is perfectionism, which kind of ties in with the question we had earlier, doesn't it, Anne? Tell us about this conscientiousness over trying.
Yes, so to the person who asked that question, this is your moment. So if you're thinking about Tom's sporting achievements, now's your moment to concentrate. So perfectionism, musicians are often perfectionists, but that doesn't mean that to be a good musician, everything's got to be perfect. So Kath introduced me to a brilliant saying, which is better is perfect and perfect is irrelevant. And so the point is to be constantly trying to improve and become a better musician, but perfect, it's just not a thing. We're all different and we wouldn't be the same anyway. So it's just not a thing. So you can get rid of your idea to be perfect. The other thing that sometimes happens with perfectionists is we think that the amount of effort, physical, mental effort we put in, and the amount that we worry, so that's another type of mental effort, the amount we put in those ways equates to how successful we'll be at the end. And that's just not true. Of course, you have to prepare really carefully and you have to be organised, like we've talked about already. You have to be organised about how to prepare, setting goals. But it's not true that the more you worry and the more you obsess about something, the more dedicated you are. It's just not true. You don't have to be worried or stressed. You just need to be organised and practical and do your best. And I think that's a really, really important thing to try and think about when you're at this stage. Don't fall into that trap of thinking that you've got to really over try to be good at something, or to over try and that will make you more dedicated. It's not true. And we're about to talk a little bit more about mistakes and how to deal with those as they happen. But if anyone needs a nice pick-me-up, the legend that is Nicola Benedetti recently posted a video of some outtakes, and she was trying to, I think there's one of her where she was trying to record some playing, and another set of outtakes where she was trying to record a video talking for one of her coaching videos, and it all goes pear-shaped. And it's just very refreshing because she is someone that we all respect so much, and it was very, very refreshing that she put those out there to show that there isn't such a thing as perfect, and that's really, really important.
Claire, is there anything you'd like to add on that?
Yeah, it just makes me, I relate so much to everything that Anne said, like totally agree, and it kind of links into what I'm going to say. So there's an England rugby star, or former England rugby star, should I say, Johnny Wilkinson, and he was a little bit of a perfectionist like I was in when he was playing rugby. And you know, after formal training, he would stay on the pitch and practice his drop kicks until, you know, God knows whatever hour, to the point where his dad, Bills, would have to drag him off the pitch and just say, Johnny, enough's enough, let's go home and have some dinner. And I used to do the same. I used to think that if I was the last person to leave the sports hall, for whatever reason, I'd be the best person. And just like Anne's saying, that's not what it's all about. The important thing, I think, is to be really purposeful with your practice, you know. So when I sort of learned that it wasn't such a good thing to be a perfectionist and to overtrain, you know, because you can overtrain and burn yourself out. So that's the other danger. So I learned that I needed to really map out my training sessions or your practice and think, okay, what am I going to train on today? I'm going to be really purposeful. It might be my breathing techniques. It might be a specific piece, you know, that you're going to train and practice. And that will stop you from going through the motions, you know, by overtraining and doing too much, okay? So that really helped me. And I, you know how they always say practice makes perfect. And for me, I think perfect practice makes perfect. So that means you being really purposeful with what you do. Make sure that it's worthwhile. And then once you're done, put your instrument away, put it in the box, forget about it, go and relax, do what you enjoy doing. Because, you know, if you relaxing, having a break, doing things like that, and I think I saw some questions about that earlier, actually, some of you were asking, it's just as important as training. So make sure you relax your mind and your body as well.
Brilliant. Thank you, Claire. Now, the poll is ended. I will share the results and we'll get the answer from Tom. So 67% think that it's true that you played for Plymouth Argyle. 65% people, a percent don't think you're very good at golf, I'm afraid. And 62% don't think you were junior tennis champion in Cornwall. So do you want to tell us the answer, Tom?
I'll take that. So the answer is I did. You were absolutely right. I used to play for Plymouth Argyle youth teams growing up. I don't like golf because I really haven't got the patience for it, if I'm honest. I quite like tennis, but I was never particularly good at it. So yeah, the first one's true. The other two are false.
Well done, guys. Now we've got three more topics, so I'm going to have to probably ask you, my guests, to just perhaps one of you talk to each of these next ones so that we get through them in time. So, coping with mistakes. Tom, would you take this one?
Yeah, of course. So in my lessons, I purposefully get my students to split the first note of the piece and try and play through to the end without stopping. And if it all starts to go wrong and they stop, I get them to wear this helmet, which I know looks extremely professional, but is actually homemade. I get them to wear this helmet which says, keep calm and play on, and they have to keep going to the end of the piece. And obviously it's a Viking hat because of the horn, French horn, etc.
Can you put it on for us, Tom?
Yeah, of course. Well, maybe for the selfie after.
Maybe for the selfie. We definitely need it for the selfie. Yeah, it looks very good. Yeah.
So basically, one of the most important parts of our practice should be recovery practice, okay? Because mistakes are inevitable. Music's like life in a way. Mistakes are inevitable, and actually we need to keep going, and we need to practice keeping going so that when we're on stage and we make that inevitable mistake, we have to keep going. It's what you do afterwards that counts. And there's another sporting analogy here, because Sir Clive Woodward and the England rugby team who won the World Cup in 2003, they did this. They planned for every possible scenario that could go wrong. And Sir Clive Woodward named this technique teacup, so it's thinking correctly under pressure, or thinking clearly under pressure. Now, in order for us to be able to do that when it matters, we've got to practice it as well. So things like running up and down the stairs, picking up your instrument, and playing through to the end of the piece. When it's not feeling right, we've got to be able to recover and keep going. Incidentally, I had one of my students said that they prefer online lessons the other day because they don't have to wear the helmet.
You'll have to send them one in a post. Yeah. Oh, look, we've got another poll. One of our guests has a guilty food pleasure of chips and also a favourite meal of chips. Who is it? Okay, we'll find that out in a minute. Okay, so the seventh topic is practice performing. So Anne, would you be able to talk to this one?
Absolutely. So we are often so busy learning the notes and making sure we can physically play everything that we forget to actually practice the other part of the skill, which is to perform. And performing is just another skill like your scales or your arpeggios. So this is a bit different for when you're preparing for orchestral stuff. Obviously with solos, you might play to your teacher, you might do a performance class or whatever. With orchestral learning, you have to be a bit more creative. So first thing you can do right from the beginning, when you start learning an orchestral part, use a metronome. Now I'm sure you get told to use a metronome and you may or may not do so. You should, please use a metronome. So metronomes are wonderful because they're an external thing that puts pressure on you to play not exactly how you want to play. And that is basically a very generalized version of performing in the most basic way. So use a metronome when you practice. They're also brilliant because you can chart your progress. And we were talking about that with the goals and the motivation, etc. earlier. So use a metronome. Use the metronome all the way up until you're really ready and you're at speed. And then, like I said before, prepare and play the part with a track. And whatever happens, keep going. If you get lost, keep going and make yourself get to the end in one piece. Doesn't matter what it sounds like, but practice the art of performing it. And finally, if you want to go one step further, practice playing your part with the track to other people, so your family, your friends, your teddies, whoever. Really do what you can to put yourself on edge. And Tom was totally right as well. What he said about running up the stairs and then performing. So see if you can do a lap of the garden, come in and then play your orchestral part. Do anything you can just to put yourself a little bit on edge. I also sometimes move my harp into unlikely locations. So I've played in the kitchen, I've played outside, I've played in the bathroom, which was incredibly uncomfortable and very loud. So yes, do lots of things to make your situation unusual.
Thank you, Anne. Amazing. Right, let's share the results of the poll. Most people think it's you, Anne, with the chip guilty food pleasure and obsession. Are they right?
How did you know?
How did they guess that?
How do I give that away? I don't know.
It is amazing how they guess these things. They have like a sixth sense for this kind of thing. It's amazing. Yeah, great. So our eighth one for you, Claire. How do you build your own support team?
Great question, and I think it's really important. You know, I always say I believe in the value of association. So you're only as good as the people you put around you. So finding the right support team, if you're wanting to get to the top of what it is that you do, is super important. Or just if you don't, like in life in general, it's important to have people who are going to lift you up and bring out the best in you. So I just went out and asked people to help me really and be part of my support team. So I would approach physios, I'd approach strength and conditioning coaches. I'd make sure my family were on side. My friends were really understanding that I had to practice more, so I couldn't go out all the time. I couldn't go to the cinema on a weekday, things like that, because I had to rest my body ready for the next training session. Teachers, you know, make sure you try and get everyone on your side so they understand, you know, that you do have to do something alongside your studies and you are focusing on something really special actually. So just yeah, it's really important to have a strong support network, and the more people you can get on your support team, the kind of the stronger you'll be, you know, and ultimately probably the better performing you'll be as well.
I remember having this one, I was doing a really hard audition one time, and have you seen the film Hercules? Do you know that the backing singers in Hercules, the women that sing amazingly?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, they were part of my psychological toolkit of supporters, and I was playing in a hall with a big balcony, and I just imagined them all around the balcony, like singing for me and dancing for me as I went in. And nobody knew that. I felt like I was like smiling to myself, going, oh, great to be here. Everybody loves me. And they were just all in this imaginary row all around this balcony. So just fun things like that can really help, just to make you feel happy and give of your best. Oh, a final poll, because we're nearly running out of time. If our guests did not have their current jobs and could be something else, what would they like to be? So somebody wants to be a vet, somebody wants to be a fisherman, and somebody wants to be a psychologist. So let's find out what that answer is. Fantastic. So those are our 8 points. I'm just going to go into the screen share again and tell you about what's happening. So let's just go over these points. So the 8 top tips were mental preparation, goal setting, musical preparation, sorry, goal setting, mental preparation, being in flow, checking your perfectionism, coping with mistakes, practice performing, and who is your support team. And I think between the 4 of us, we kind of thought that if that's so much stuff to be thinking about and bringing into your toolkit of experience and skill. Now, all things that we wish we knew when we were your age. So it's a real pleasure to be able to share at least some of those. And, you know, obviously not all of them will be interesting or ready for you right now, but a few things might well be. And you can always come back to it and see what it is that's going to work for you at any given time. So on Friday, we have our next webinar, which is called Beyond Your Instrument. And we're going to be joined by these amazing musicians, Howard Goodall, who's composer and conductor, and so is Debbie Wiseman. They both write a lot for film and have won BAFTAs and Emmys and all sorts of awards. And Howard, very famous for writing the music for Mr. Bean, the cartoon for Mr. Bean, and the movies for Mr. Bean. So we're going to be joined by them on Friday. To talk about life beyond your instrument. If you're a musician, what are the things that you might think about doing if you know, for example, you may not want to play your instrument forever, and there must maybe so many other things that you can do with your music. So we're going to be talking to them on Friday. So let me come out of the screen share and let's share the final result of our poll, end the poll, and it says that Anne, they think that Anne wants to be a vet, Tom wants to be a fisherman, and Claire wants to be a psychologist. So, Tom, do you want to tell us if that's right for you?
That's right for me. Yeah, anything for the quiet life. Yeah.
Brilliant. Claire, is that right for you?
It's not right for me, unfortunately. I wanted to be a vet. I love animals, so
So Anne wanted to be the psychologist and Claire wanted to be the vet. Oh, I see. So, oh well, we're very close. Brilliant. Now we've completely run out of time, as we always do. But one final thought, a quick final thought from each of you before we say goodbye and do our webinar. No, actually, should we do the webinar selfie first? Let's do the selfie first. Do you want to get your hat, Tom?
Yep.
I haven't got anything today, so
my daughter's pirate hat. Pirate thing. I don't know if it'll fit.
Well, perhaps I'll bring my flowers. Here's my flowers, especially for the selfie. Where's Anne gone? She's disappeared. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay. 3, 2, 1. Fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for the webinar selfie. That should be fun later. And one final piece of advice before we go, if we can keep these quick, Tom, what would you say?
If you want to be the best you can be, stay positive. Stay positive when you practice, stay positive when you perform. As soon as you start turning to the negative side, the dark side, just take a break, do something else for a bit, and then come back to it. You know, don't get too wrapped up in negativity. It's not healthy.
Fantastic. And Anne?
So if you've prepared thoroughly, you can do it. So if you're feeling het up for a performance, think about all the wonderful things that are not going to change however the performance goes. So take the pressure off yourself. Think about the fact that your cat is still going to sleep all of the next day, or that the bus is still going to come at 9 a.m, or that you'll still get to do that really fun, exciting project next week. Just take that pressure off and let yourself be relaxed.
Fantastic. And one final thought from you, Claire?
And for me, which just links in with what we've been talking about today with mental preparation, is to spend just as much time in the mind gym as you would practicing in your bedroom or on stage or whatever. And also make sure you take some breaks and enjoy the whole process, enjoy the journey.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Tom and Claire and Anne. It's been a real pleasure to have you on our webinar, and so much wisdom and so much resource there for people to go back and carry on thinking about. And I can't thank you enough for being part of the NCO team, the NCO journey, and I hope we can talk together like this again at some time very soon. So thank you. I'm going to end it now, but say goodbye. Thank you very much. Bye. Bye.